The stage is set. The 2024 Fantasy Major League Rugby season is all wrapped up, and now it's do or die for fantasy managers with playoffs upon us. But don't you worry, though. We get you all set up on this week's episode of the Fantasy Ruckers Show with a look back at what happened in Week 15, some waiver wire advice, and a look ahead to what's to come in Week 16, plus much, much more, and what could be the most important matchups and decisions that you make this season. The Fantasy Ruckers Show starts right now.
Where rugby and the world of fantasy sports collide. Welcome to the Fantasy Ruckers Show, bringing fantasy rugby to the masses, talking all things rugby from the MLR to leagues around the world. We're on top of it. Headphones on, pads off. This is the Fantasy Ruckers Show. Now, here are your hosts, Ryan Yee, Matt Yee, and Devin Vanderpool.
What's up, everybody? This is episode 112 of the Fantasy Ruckers Show. Thank you so much for Fantasy Ruckers League members, our community members, and everyone else tagging along on this journey of making fantasy rugby a reality in the MLR. With you each and every single week, Matt Yee, Devin, Vandy, Vanderpool. I am Ryan Yee. And yes, if you're watching on the YouTube video, Vandy is here. I promise you. You might just see a picture of him. And it's not because of the sadness of being left out when we're going to be talking about playoffs here in this upcoming episode of Fantasy Plus. It might be an excuse here, but Vandy is on the show here. Had a little bit of an incident where the old man Vandy hurt his back. So Vandy, I'm glad that you powered through and muscled through, and you'd still join us through the pain that you're going in, both emotionally from missing out on playoffs and physically from whatever you're dealing with.
All right. Well, first of all, to make it sound like I just was picking up some loose change and tweaked my back at a workplace kind of accident. I'm not going to go into it, but yada, yada, yada. Here I am.
He's picking up some change and he tweaked his back.
As far as missing the playoffs, I'm getting pretty used to that. That callus is hardening more and more every year.
Yeah, you're just having enough of it. But hey, that's what we said at the top of the show, though, is that we got to talk about playoffs this upcoming episode because the Fantasy MLR playoffs are officially kicking off for all of our leagues. Our main league has had its first round of playoffs, which is quite exciting. I got to hold myself back here because I'm pretty pumped up to talk about that. But Maddie, you had a nice little week off there, getting second place, getting the bye. What'd you do in your time off, man? I mean, playoffs are kind of all set for you. Now you're just chilling.
Man, I've been at the semifinal for a while, just waiting for the rest of the boys to show up. And, you know, it was just me and Fitzy just hanging out. Classic. It's my second year getting the bye, heading into the finals. So, you know, just felt like home, really.
Felt like home. Is that so? Well, hey, it's time to dethrone. It's time to dethrone the former champion. We'll get into it here on this jam-packed episode where, like we said at the top, going to talk about the Week 15 that was full slate of games, all 12 teams playing, no shortage of players to choose from in your lineup, which made things either easy or difficult for you with some of the decisions that you had to make. I know that our Discord was popping off with some MLR advice that people were asking. We got Waiver-Wire to talk about, also dish out some team of the week honorees, look ahead to the pivotal Week 16 that is the very first week of our league's fantasy MLR playoffs. We got our OvalYe with Vandy presented by OvalYe segments that we are now doing, and we'll wrap it up with even though Vandy is on his back hurting, still a degenerate gambler, so we still got the triple T segment at the end of the show. That ain't gonna stop Vandy from putting money on the line, right?
It never does. No injury holds me back.
Yeah, there you go. You only need your thumbs there to hit the DraftKings or FanDuel button, right? That's all you need.
Even if I broke my thumbs, I'd still figure out a way to get it.
There you go. Well, hey, before we get into it, like we say every single week, make sure you're following us at the Fantasy Ruckers. Handles up above if you're watching on the YouTube video. We greatly appreciate it. Down below in the description if you're listening on the pod. Like, subscribe, comment, rate, review. It all helps out. We really do appreciate all the support that we've gotten. If that's not all enough, you can join our Discord. Have a fun community over there that's slowly building and building and building. A fun group of guys to talk MLR, fantasy MLR, anything going on in the world of rugby. That link is down below in the description as well. And also, hey, check out the fantasyruckers.com. Cool little site there. The platform the official platform for Fantasy MLR here on the Fantasy Ruckers, plus a nice little resource for people who even aren't playing Fantasy MLR to go check out some stats and some in-depth analysis when it comes to the landscape that is Major League Rugby.
Let's do it.
All right, let's get right into it. News and notes segment as we start off the show every single time. Got to catch up with what was the most exciting and breaking news that we've had over the course of the past 7 days. I think we should start off in the light of playoffs happening, guys, in the world of fantasy. Playoffs are also around the corner for Major League Rugby, and we have a handful of teams who have locked up their playoff spots. We got San Diego, New England, and Seattle, obviously, of course, with Houston locking up last week, but can't forget the NOLA Gold either, making their first ever playoff appearance in franchise history since they've been in the league, which is pretty crazy because NOLA's been in the league for quite some time. They're one of the older franchises in MLR, and the fact that it took all the way to 2024 for them to get their first bid is pretty nuts. But then looking back at kind of the mirages and smoke screens that NOLA has been giving us over the course of the past seasons, where we thought they'll be good, not so good. This year is kind of the same, but they ended up teeter-tottering on the good side of things. Hey, welcome to the playoffs, NOLA Gold.
Yeah, I mean, hey, they got the wins when they needed to. That's what it is. And that's all you can really ask. And I think, we'll kind of talk here the fantasy wise of watching some of these lineups as they come in and as they're locking up the playoff spot. I don't know if we're there yet. I don't know if we're quite there yet. I think Houston's the only team that has really locked in the number 1 seed, and I even could be wrong there. So there's still a lot to play for here, and I think these boys will still be playing out to try to make sure that they're seeding as high as they possibly can, so that they get a better matchup in that playoff format.
What is interesting, though, this year is that unlike last year, where we had the 3 teams from each division making it in, three teams making it in from each division, where we would then have that first team bye into that week. We got 4 teams making it in. So again, everyone is playing that first week. Like Maddie said, matchups is going to be a huge pivotal part of that to try to get the best possible matchup that you can get. So again, they may have locked up their spots, but there's still much to play for, like Maddie mentioned. Some players that won't be playing, though, in playoffs and for the coming weeks. A handful of suspensions that kind of came out over the course of the past 7 days, which has been interesting. It was funny because I believe it was John Fitzpatrick of Rugby Morning, who is on our main OG Fantasy Ruckers League, tweeted out saying, hey, I was just perusing on the Major League Rugby website, and I went to the disciplinary page, and it just happened that these guys just were on there, and there was no other word of that, and we just got whiff by perusing.
They just throw guys on there. Yeah, I'm telling you,
it's crazy.
I'm telling you, the MLR just hammers that page. Like, if there's a page with the most updates, that one right there is the one. Boy, do they ever love just throwing guys on that disciplinary page.
Doesn't it feel like, though, that this year has had a lot more suspensions than previous years? Like, I feel like there's just
when you scroll through,
yeah.
When you scroll through social media and you just refresh the top when you've run out of content, and you just hope that new things are going to show up, and it's like you're on that popular page, and for you, that's the disciplinary page this year. Yeah. All right. You run out of content, you just refresh the top, and you know that something new is going to pop up. Whether that's OJ Noah showing up, whether that's Thomas Caceres showing up, Rob Harley, these guys. I mean, man, that page has definitely been active.
Well, let's talk about it then, Maddie. You mentioned the names. Olajuwon Noah, first guy to be listed on that. NOLA Gold, back rower. He's going to be out. He was given a 4-week suspension. All of these suspensions that's began before this past rounds of matches. So everything that we say is going to be 1 week reduced. So Olajuwon Noah handed out a 4-week suspension. He's got 3 weeks left to serve for that. So he's essentially null in terms of impact that he's going to make in fantasy MLR. Maddie, you mentioned Thomas Caceres, 6-week suspension given to him. 5 weeks left to serve. Yep. You can cross him off the fantasy MLR list as well. The one guy that that you will keep an eye on hasn't been crazy fantasy relevant this year, but he is a bigger name. Rob Harley of OvalYe DC handed a 2-week suspension. He's got 1 week left to serve, so he'll be available for your final. Not sure how many fantasy managers, though, will be buying in on the Rob Harley stakes and wagering their fantasy MLR final on a guy that's coming off of a suspension.
Yeah, and we'll get into a little bit of waivers about that with the Rob Harley, but also some guys coming back. I mean, I know this weekend David Still is coming off of his suspension. Manuel Ardejo is going to be available after his suspension. So, yeah, some guys coming off and some guys going back on the suspension boat.
All right, and let's shift on over now to some. Yeah, I know. Let's shift on now over to some more positive news when it comes to things that may have fantasy impact, and that includes some signings that happened over the course of the past couple days. One happening just this week. Probably the biggest sign that we'll get into more in depth in our waiver wire segment, but a very familiar fantasy MLR name. Tom Florence is returning to the NOLA Gold. NOLA kind of teased out on Monday, hey, we got a 5 p.m. announcement that's coming in. Not sure what it was going to be. Not sure how many people predicted it was going to be a Tom Florence re-signing announcement. But hey, this is definitely one to keep an eye on because he had fantasy impact last year. That is for sure. And we'll see how he integrates into that lineup. Obviously, with Olajuwon Noah being suspended, with Jonah Mo's injury happening, Tom Florence should, all signs point to him having an immediate impact here.
Yeah, I mean, look, he signed with the Chiefs. We didn't think we'd see him coming back. The Chiefs are in the playoffs for Super Rugby. Seems like he's not getting any playoff time for them. So he's coming back here to NOLA, coming in to dominate the way that he did last year and kind of pick up where he left off because he's going to get the opportunity, I think.
And then another NOLA Gold signing here that just was announced on Tuesday, Diego Fortuny. He is coming to the NOLA Gold. He's a player that is familiar with Major League Rugby. He had earned 21 US MLR caps for the Houston SaberCats between 2020 and 2022 before joining our not so great friends, the American Raptors down in the SLAR for their 2023 and 2024 season. But it looks like Fortuny now, the Argentinian front rower, will be coming to the NOLA Gold, which will also be kind of an interesting move here because does he now interject himself? He's a guy that has a lot of experience. We've seen him have fantasy relevance before. Is he going to be able to take over that starting spot here as we get to the tail end of the season, which does throw a wrench into things for fantasy managers?
Yeah, we'll have to see. And I think another signing, talking about Argentinians, Matias Karamudi signed with, I believe, the Miami Sharks after supposed to be playing for Dallas, I believe, but he had some visa issues. Looks like he'll be joining the Miami Sharks on a team that, is trying to finish off the season strong. So we'll see how he does as well.
And we've seen a handful of guys at that front row position for NOLA. Augusto Bohm has been in that position. Pat O'Toole has been in that position recently. Again, not really a solidified player there. So again, maybe a guy that you can maybe take advantage of if you're looking for that front row streamer heading into the playoffs. But we'll talk about that in more depth coming up here in our waiver wire segment. Last thing I want to wrap up on, guys, is not so much fantasy related, but it is a positive sign moving forward in terms of signs that MLR is establishing itself as a bigger and better league here in North America. But we have had talks before about the player association that will be representing and be coming into establishment moving forward. And it does look like the MLRPA has announced its representatives from each team, its player reps for 2024 and its alternate reps here, which is just a good sign. This was obviously, you'd think about every power sport in North America, they all have players associations, and I think this is another just step in a sign that MLR is being taken seriously. They're taking the serious steps to be a recognizable and established league here in North America.
Yep, that is true, and we'll see kind of what they can do for the league and what they can do for the players, especially with all the things that tend to happen every offseason. So we'll see how that works out. But Vandy, don't we ever love unions, right?
Yeah, you gotta love a good union, eh? No, I think it's good, especially with you know, shout out to Cole, but he kind of talked about it in the offseason, how wild it was for him with his team imploding and what's going to happen there and how much he was left in the dark. So hopefully this can kind of help out with that situation moving forward, because that's just unfair to do to your players.
Absolutely. All right, you guys ready for your favorite time of the show?
Yeah. Vandy, it's time to cook this week, buddy. It's your time. It's your time to shine.
All right, hear ye, hear ye. Here is Supreme Commissioner Yi with a Fantasy Ruckers Leagues update. And let's start it off like how we do every single week and give a shout out to our weekly challenge winner this past week in week 15. Got to give a shout out to Abelius, 63.5 total points scored here in the weekly challenge to take it here in week 15. He was super stoked about it. I know he's been a long time follower of the Fantasy Ruckers show. He's been itching to get a taste of fantasy MLR. He's in a league and also now in our weekly challenge and a consistent contributor. And I know he went straight to Discord to say, "Oh my God, I can't believe it. I won the weekly challenge." And yeah, that's right. Anything is possible. Anyone can win the weekly challenge. And Abelius, this week it is yours, 63.5 to finish first on the week. A couple other guys to shout out. Unforgiven Potato finishing second. Old Prop finishing third. Close one there, both with 56 points. But Unforgiven Potato edging Old Prop out by a half a point there with 56.5. And then we also like to mention, for better or for worse, how the hosts here on the Fantasy Ruckers show do. And Vandy, look at you, buddy. You know, you've been at a long time of sitting behind us two dummies. And look at you, finishing fifth this week. Maddie finishing
2 weeks
eighth.
in a row.
I finished seventh. 2 weeks in a row where you've shown what's up and showed us up here in the weekly challenge, which is exciting.
Yeah, you know what? I was stringing consistent 8s, and I'm happy to string consistent 5s.
Hey, way to go, buddy. You're still 7th on the season, though, so suck it.
Small victories,
Still,
Maddie. Small
7th
victories.
on the season. Maddie, even though I finished ahead of you, I couldn't pass you yet. I am 1 point, literally 1 point behind you. And you are first on the season here on the season-long weekly challenge rankings. I am in second. All right, well, let's give a shout-out here now to our top fantasy performer of the week. And this is my favorite part of the show this week. You know why?
Why?
Do you know why?
I don't know why.
Because Ryan shows up in the most important times. And who puts up a crazy 121.1 fantasy point performance when everything is on the line? Need the win to get in fantasy point performance. 121.1 fantasy points here in the quarterfinal to beat former champ JJ Toltz of Lads on Tour
2 years ago, right?
to buy my ticket into the semifinals to take on John Fitzpatrick's Rugby
This guy won in the Walmart version of the fantasy league. It's not that big of an accomplishment. Come on.
What can I say though? It's okay. I still won though.
Hey, you had a good week.
21.1 fantasy points. That's pretty good.
That's pretty good. But I hate this, but I think I won a little more by scoring 0.
That makes no sense.
Scoring 0.
It makes sense. I need not to play.
That doesn't matter.
I still came out on top.
It doesn't matter. You're going to be rusty.
I still came out on top.
You're going to be rusty coming out.
Mathematically, I don't know where to go from here.
Well, I mean, I'm stoked. I mean, we haven't had triple-digit point performances in quite some time, and a heater of 121.1. We're going to get into the top fantasy performers.
You did have a good week. A lot of big guys you put in there.
What can I say? All right, and
we have credit. You had all great selections except Younger.
That's what I'm talking about. Just give me my flowers when I deserve it. All right, that's all I'm asking.
You deserve it.
Collections, except you still put Youngerton at 9. That guy stinks.
He carried it. He was the reason why I got past 120. Gotta love me some holding Younger.
What do you get?
You got 121 points. That's not a lot.
Something like that, Vandy. It was pretty low. All right. Got to give a shout out though. We don't like to take out the whole entire spotlight. Got to give a shout out to our Fantasy Ruckers League member that performed the best here, and that was Yippee Try-Yay. What a name! Of the Try Hards League, he put up 120.9 fantasy points this week. So just behind, it was a week where I think all 5 leagues had triple-digit scores here. We haven't had that, if ever, in quite some time. So, I mean, that's what we love to see here on the Fantasy Ruckers. Lots of points being scored, especially as we head into fantasy playoffs. This is going to make things quite interesting here, as now we have cut the pack down to half, with now semifinals happening this week. 4 teams from each 8-team league has made the playoffs. There are 4 teams left in our 10-team main league. It's on. Like I said at the top of the show, do or die here. And that's the time now that I'm going to give a shout out about our playoffs here. It's playoff time now. Make sure you're taking it serious here. It's do or die. You got to get the win to move on here. And there is a lot on the line when it comes to the bragging rights of being the winner of your respective Fantasy Ruckers League. I know that some leagues have created their own little prizes here. I think Stephen Lowen, our community moderator for the league that he is commissioner of, I think he's put a jersey on the line for that league. And for our league, everyone knows, get your name, highly coveted Fantasy Ruckers Championship jersey that you could have seen me wearing, which is providing me some good luck here on our live stream for the San
pretty
Diego.
Heinous what you did right there.
No, what are you talking for the New England Dallas game that we watched?
You almost have to win now.
I have
to.
You
do because we're watching all these finals in other sports. And boy, do they ever not touch the trophy. They stay away. They stay clear, actually, about that bad boy. And you just decide not only to sit in front of it every day on a daily basis, but to also put it on with your name not on it.
Wild.
I think that's the equivalent of like Vandy, like winning the Stanley Cup and drinking a beer out of the cup before you even won it. It's probably
it's like hijacking the two dudes in the back that are carrying it.
right.
I just touched it real quick.
Yeah. Well, like I said, remember, playoffs coming in here, 4 teams each league. We got our highly coveted Fantasy Ruckers Championship jersey, name on that jersey on the line, in addition to $100 that we donate to the winner's charity of choice. I just want to give one quick shout out before we get into our Week 15 breakdown. As we get to the tail end of our, I guess, what is it? Our 3rd Fantasy MLR season, Maddie? Third Fantasy MLR season that we've been doing. We will, now that this is our first year that we've opened it up to the general public, we will be releasing a feedback sheet that is to come here. It'll be like a little Google form that you can fill out. I know we've had a lot of kind of suggestions in our Discord suggestion channel, but in addition to kind of just user rules, user friendliness, and just anything else, even positive stuff. We like to hear positive stuff too, of what you enjoyed most about your Fantasy MLR season. That will be coming out in the coming weeks as we wrap up this 2024 Fantasy MLR season. All right,
we don't want to hear none of that, how bad we did. We don't want to hear
I think we've only heard good things, right? Only good things. I will say.
You know what?
Wow.
Just real quick here, I just got to say, I feel like what we've done well is the point system. You know, when you see,
look at
the top points.
There's some people in there that will beg to differ.
Centers, back rows, fly half, back rows, back fly half. That, you know what?
It's loud in that Discord.
Yeah,
it is loud in that Discord.
Haters are louder than supporters.
It's hard to please everybody.
All right. Well, let's get in. We
take feedback.
Let's get now into the Week 15 breakdown here and what we had a jam-packed week, full slate of matches, everyone playing, no buys here, so we got a lot to get to, and it was an exciting one. I mean, a lot of high-scoring matches that led to, I think, a lot of those triple-digit performances. Vandy, we're excited to talk about your barn burner of a match with your Utah Warriors, but we got to start off with, of course, the very first matchup of the weekend on Saturday, 7 p.m. Eastern time. This time, no Anthem game we're starting off with. We're starting off with Old Glory DC taking on the New England Free Jacks. And what was a lot closer of a match than I thought it was going to be. The points were there. I did not think it was going to get decided by 1 point, though. The New England Free Jacks taking it in the end, 31-30. They now move up to 9-4. Old Glory DC now to 5-6-2.
Yeah, I mean, look, Old Glory DC came out hot in this game. I mean, man, when they move the ball around, they look good.
Yep.
When they've got quick ball, they look very good. And we saw that very early in this game. And it broke down a New England Free Jack D that we expect a lot out of. New England Free Jacks came out sloppy. Their offense was sloppy. Yep. They had turnovers in the red zone, which they're not really used to doing. But they seemed to figure it out in the last 20 minutes. Like they put it together. I think this was similar to like a couple weeks ago, I think, where they just kind of try to put it together in the last 20 minutes and they find a way to win. And boy, did they ever just dominate in that last 20 minutes. I think a big thing to look at is Old Glory DC. Fernanda Schultz got hurt. That one didn't look good at all. And yeah, I mean, we're going to have to watch that one for sure, fantasy wise.
Yeah, it should be interesting. We'll get right to some fantasy performers in this match. Dish out our first team of the week honoree at the front row position. Friend of the show, Andrew Quatrin, is this week's top front rower, 14.5 fantasy points. He is now 2 weeks in a row where he's gotten double-digit fantasy points, back-to-back weeks with tries, all coming off of that set piece that seems to starting to be figured out by New England. I know the questions have always been so far this season with New England of how poor their lineout really has been. But Quattrin has been able to take advantage at least a couple times over the past 2 weeks where they have scored tries, 50 meters gained. Like I said, a try assist and 10 tackles. I think Quattrin, you're very happy if you're a Quattrin owner heading into these fantasy playoffs because he has been turning it up here and in tandem with what New England has been doing here these past couple of weeks.
Yeah, you're definitely feeling good about that.
And then a couple other guys I want to get to. Jason Potros looking good as always, 21.1 fantasy points for him, 81 meters gained. He's now back-to-back weeks with tries as well. He's an obvious lock in your lineup. Axel Muller, though, this was a very rewarding one to see. He scored a try, 99 meters gained. He was coming off of an off week where he had 4.7 fantasy points, but comes out this one with 17.7 with all those meters gained and the try there. He was kind of on that cusp, at least for me as an Axel Muller owner, as a guy that I wasn't too sure if he was going to be a plug-and-play guy now. Now you have questions heading into these fantasy semifinals. A couple other guys, Wayne Vanderbank, once again, scoring a try. He always does that. It's incredible. The guy is basically scored double-digit fantasy points in every single game that he started in except for one, and that was all the way back in week 1, and he still scored 5.9 coming off the bench in round 13. So, I mean, this guy has been incredible this season. We talked a lot about him all season long with how he's really become that emerging center here out of what was the center question for this New England team. And then Paula Bellicana, Maddie, you obviously have a straight relationship with him, but he scored a try this past weekend, 55 meters gained with 12.5 fantasy points. And then Old Glory DC
dolphin dive too.
Yeah, a couple of the Old Glory DC guys we got to mention. Jason Robertson, 13.6 fantasy points for him.
Money.
He was money from the tee as usual. But I think what we're learning with Jason Robertson, though, is that he has a ceiling, right? He's not going to explode for you for any big time tries like maybe a Davy Coates or some of these other fly halves in the league. He only has 2 tries on the season, but you can be confident that if he has kicking duties, which he has had over the past 3 weeks since he's returned from coming off the bench during that little Graydon Bowd stint, he scored a higher than 13 fantasy points literally every single week, 13.5, 13, 13.6. So you can basically lock Jason Robertson in at least 10 fantasy points if he's starting at fly half here moving forward, which is good. And then last guy, you mentioned him, Matt Faanana Schultz, 12.5 fantasy points for him with the try and 48 meters gained.
Yeah, but only in 49 minutes. He got hurt and it didn't look good. So we're going to have to look at you're going to want to keep an eye on that as a fantasy manager.
I wonder if, you know those stories you always hear in fantasy when somebody does something kind of silly or whatever, and it loses you a week, like a quarterback took a kneel and it loses. Imagine being like that Mitch Wilson owner and seeing him get that yellow right at the end for that, for knocking the ball out.
Yeah, it's true.
And you lose that way. And, then obviously with the yellow, he goes off. So there's no chance of redemption,
Yeah.
I just thought that'd be funny.
It's tough. All right. Well, let's go on to now the second game of the Saturday. The Houston SaberCats taking on RFC Los Angeles. Houston. I mean, what else is there to say? Houston doing Houston things. 29-12. They win this one. They move up to 12-1. Again, I feel like I'm a broken record each and every time we appear on the show. But they are by far the best team right now, heading into fantasy MLR playoffs and rolling in with what? 3 weeks left to play here in the MLR regular season as the favorites to take this thing this year. Los Angeles falls to 4-8-1. What do you expect against a team that is bottom tier here in the league versus the best team in the league right now?
Well,
and LA go ahead, Vandy.
LA didn't really help themselves. I mean, they gave up 2 penalty tries, 3 yellow cards, a red. And they, all in all, I thought they actually played pretty good against that Houston team. They can be an absolute buzzsaw. And it took, a couple great plays. Davy Coates had a hell of a play for that steal.
Yep.
Huge. I mean, if it wasn't for those plays, you take away some of those cards, I think they honestly had a shot in this one.
Yeah, and even with, they came into the game with such a weird lineup. They had Bruce Kukai Peterson, who, by the way, was the one who got the red, 40-something minutes.
Talk about our start of the week kind of shooting us in the face, Maddie, there. As soon as I saw that red card, I'm damn.
Hey, it is what it is. I can't account for a guy smoking a guy in the head. So what am I supposed to do? But yeah, they had a front row playing back row, they had a back three playing center, they had a center playing 10. It was just a wild lineup for LA, and they still somewhat, you know, score wise tried to stay in this game, but Houston is just, you can't make that many mistakes and expect to beat Houston, especially when we look at David Coates and the way that he played. He was absolutely lights out. I have like one note here, and it's just Coates is so slippery, and that guy, like, that's the only way that I can explain the way that guy runs the ball.
And now, I mean, what's the status on AJ, Ryan?
I don't know. We haven't heard anything from him.
That could be huge for Coates owners.
Yeah.
I know he plays at 15, but damn, he looks so good at 10 still.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, to Maddie's point, I mean, watching him score that try, like, he just has a second gear. Like, it's incredible. He is just, he is so fast there for Houston. And I will add, before we get into Coates' performance here, to Vandy's point about giving up the penalty tries, I do have to give Houston credit, because I mean, with that dominant pack that they have, they're forcing a lot of those errors and a lot of those penalties, and that comes with being a solid team. So again, Houston, like how we started, Houston kind of doing what Houston does, and it doesn't help with what Vandy's saying, Los Angeles getting the cards that they got. But yeah, let's get into it. Davey Kutzer, at the biggest performance here in this game by far, 25.9 fantasy points. I mean, what a week for fly halves this week. I mean, 21 from Patros, 25.9 from Kotzer, and they're both not team of the week. And we'll get into the guy that is, because he had a big time performance too. But I mean, 143 meters gained, a try, 7 tackles, and the full 80 played for Kotzer with the conversion kick and the penalty kick. I mean, you are so confident in this guy right now heading into fantasy MLR playoffs, and he's locked into your lineup. As long as, like what you were saying, Vandy, with whatever is going on with AJ Alatimu, we haven't seen him in a couple of weeks. You're riding with Kotzer, and you know that he's going to do that. We haven't seen Alatimu since round 12. So we'll keep an eye out for any news that are from him. But yeah, nothing as of yet. And then outside of that, really not many other big time performances. You had Semi Kunatani, which even if he's on a team that's only going to score 12 points, Kunatani still figures out a way to do it, even if that doesn't mean scoring a try, which he's done in the before this match in 5 straight games. He ends that streak at 5, but he still had 70 meters gained, a try assist, 7 tackles, and a breakdown steal for 13.6. I mean, Semi Kunatani is a monster. Absolute monster.
Terrifying individual, man.
Andrew Coe with 12.3, Drew Wild 10.5, and Andre Warner 10.3. So for the scrum half position, he's gotten back-to-back now with double digit. He hasn't scored less than 8 points since round 9. He with now, like, kind of the questions at San Diego with Connor Tupai kind of being in and out of the lineup, and we haven't seen him explode for a lot. I mean, Andre Warner's, even if he doesn't finish as the top scrum half, because he hasn't had any of those explosive, like, 25-point games like COC9 or anything like that. I mean, the fact that you're consistently getting at least 9 points from Warner is, like, that's so valuable at the scrum half position. It's incredible.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, Tupai took a rest this week because they're facing Carolina. But another guy I do want to shout out before we move on to the next game is Henry Spates, sneaky LA, making a late week announcement of signing Australian legend Henry Spates on the wing. He comes in off the bench, gets 3.5 fantasy points, 37 meters gained, but boy, did he look good. And the commentators just couldn't help themselves but confuse him with Max Kadieko. I don't know if that's, I'm not going to make any more comments on that, on why that confusion was made, but it seems pretty rude to me. But yeah, Henry Spates looking good out there.
And then team of the week here was Houston SaberCats as the best set piece this week with 5 points that they scored, large in part of due to those 2 penalty tries that we talked about before. I mean, we'll talk about it in the waiver wire segment, but Henry Spates was a guy that I kind of picked up. I knew that he wasn't going to be starting this week, but just as a whole, because if he starts next week,
he looks good.
He looks good, and he has the name value ahead of it. So, I mean, I guess, kind of a big risk, big reward type play there, but we'll get into it as we look in the preview into week 16. But let's go on to now the third match of the weekend. The first on Sunday, had a busy Sunday, 4 matches here, jam-packed it all in. San Diego Legion taking on Anthem Rugby Carolina. I mean, San Diego basically dominated, and then it's like a classic Anthem performance, right? Like, this is why the Anthem are still very fantasy relevant. And it's funny because the 2 team of the week guys that we're going to talk about here are both on the Anthem. they can put up numbers offensively. It might not be timely, or it might not be in a way where they're going to be winning, but they do. But nonetheless, though, San Diego Legion takes this one 34-24. Legion go now to 9-4. Anthem to 0-13.
Look, frankly, I think San Diego sucked. San Diego looked awful.
All but one guy, Lincoln McClutchy.
Yeah,
Dude,
Lincoln McClutchy looked good, but even he got.
This is the game of the scrum halves. Cliven Laubser and Lincoln McClutchy. Oh,
yeah,
that game. That was
or the fly halves, but
or fly half. Sorry,
yeah. No, but yeah, no, they were both great. I Lincoln McClutchy, I mean, he got hurt, so that's something else to watch as well. He looked like he got hurt and left early with that knee issue. Yeah. But man, San Diego offensively, they just look brutal. Like I've said this every year. I've said this every year. Yes, Danny Christensen scored that try of the week or whatever, where he came on off the bench. But man, having him and then Nate Boyer coming off the bench, San Diego struggles when they don't have a good 9 in there. And when they have a ball moving that slow, they're never going to be able to do anything with it. And they scored 31 points. I thought they did it looking awfully. I thought they struggled at the breakdown. Anthem was there. I don't know how many turnovers the Anthem had and caused at the breakdown. But Carolina looked good. I mean, offensively, they always look good with the ball in hand. I think the one thing that probably hurt them the most was the fact that, I don't know what it was, but San Diego literally knew where they were going with the line out every time.
Yeah.
They literally knew. They just waited. They said, yep, you're going to this jumper. And I'm not sure how they knew, but they definitely knew. And that's what really hurt him. But yeah, I mean, Carolina's offense, they continue to be, like you said, Ryan, guys like Cliven Laubser putting up 26 points, guys like Tarangtiro Waitokia, even though he put all the bulk of his points late in the game, putting up a stupid amount of points with 25.9 points. Junior Gaffa. Yeah, it was a good week for Anthem for sure.
Now, I will say, though, if there's a week for you to not have a great week and still win, it's against the Anthem. And I mean, there was a not top tier lineup that San Diego put out there with Danny Christensen starting. And to your point, Matty, I think San Diego's offense looks completely different. One, they have a competent 9 there, and there's a big gap between Connor Tupai and Danny Christensen, and way big gap between them and Nick Boyer. Obviously, we're seeing the impact when Henry Judd left from last season, how electric that offense was. Connor Tupai stepped up.
Richard
Judd, sorry. And not to the extent that Richard Judd was doing last year, but I think when Connor Tupai is in there, they look completely different. But nonetheless, Matty, like you said, big time
performances. One more right here, Ryan.
Yeah.
I think the Legion also suffer every time Brocky's out of the lineup. When Marcel Brocky is playing 15, I know Teo got that try and it looked good, but man, when Brocky's in, it just seems to I don't know, more veteran presenceship. I don't know what it is, but when he's out of that lineup,
doesn't that hurt you to say, Matt? You love Mikey Teo. You love yourself some Mikey Teo.
I mean, I don't know about me loving Mikey Teo.
No, I'm saying Vandy. That's what I'm saying. Like I said, Vandy. That's gotta hurt saying that because you love you some.
Yeah, well,
Mikey
I should have picked Co.
There you go. Well, I guess that relationship now ex-Nate here. You'll be thinking twice now here until
now he gets the band hammer.
There you go. But let's talk about some performances. Like I said, Cliven Laubser, team of the week, fly half position, 26 fantasy points, 143 meters gained, a try, 4 tackles, and the full 80 played. I mean, Laubser, this is now 2 straight games that when he started at the fly half position. It's split up by his start at the full back position in round 14. But in round 12 and round 15, 26 plus points at the fly half position. That's a difference maker because fly halves don't usually do that. And he not only has the kicking ability, he has the athleticism to go for those triple digit meters gain and be a threat at that 10 position. I mean, Laubser is incredible.
Yeah, he definitely attacks the line. And he played 10 minutes at 9, I think, at the end of the game. So, I mean, that's pretty impressive too.
Yeah. It is going to be an interesting debate though here coming up because Oscar Collar was still on the bench. Oscar Collar has been good. It's going to be a debate on what we're going to see here in this upcoming week here for fantasy playoff semifinals. And then the other guy that Matty mentioned, team of the week for the center position, Tarangtiro Waitokia. I think that he's going to finish off as the best fantasy player this year because I mean, he's on the Carolina, right? And their offense looks good at times, And he just manages to somehow find a way to score. It might be in the like final 5 minutes, but he just does it. And at least from a fantasy sense, you just love to see it. And I mean, he has gone basically every single week except for two in the double digits. He's scored above 15 and about four of the and above all of them except for four. I mean, Waitokia, man, he might be the best fantasy player this season, which would make him one of the biggest
Yeah.
sleepers this year.
Well,
Yeah.
he has been sneaky with his steps, and he gets by defenders. And availability is the best ability, and he's been available. That's for sure.
Yeah. And even after when there was that scare with the injury that he suffered, was it before the bye week, I think, that we didn't know? Obviously, it doesn't look like that's affecting him too much. Some other guys to mention, Junior Goffa, Maddie mentioned 6.2 fantasy points for him. Michael Mafu of the Anthem, 14.2. And in that as well. And going down the list, 10.5 for Thomas Yolacio. And then on the San Diego side, we have Philemoni Wakana. Oh man, Philemoni Wakana Bede. I'm sure the viewers are gonna be.
Man, you're the one with the sheet.
Go for it.
That was a tough one. I'm sure our viewers will be quick to correct me on that. But 21.6 for him. Both back three players for the San Diego, which you expect against the Anthem, doing very, very well. 121 meters gain a try. And then on the other side, James Vaifale, 20.8 fantasy points for him, and only his second start of the year with 84 meters gained and 2 tries for him. Tian Lutz doing well with 20 points. Tupoa Fungia, 14.5. And Ethan Grayson, 13.9. So, I mean, down the list, just a lot of points to be had in this one.
Yep, that's for sure.
All right, let's now move on over to the fourth match of the weekend, the second of Sunday. The Miami Sharks taking on the NOLA Gold, and probably what was the most boring match of the week, more or less. NOLA coming away with this one, 20-13. I believe NOLA scored 2 tries. Miami scored 1. In what I mentioned as last week as the match of smoke screens, in terms of we don't know what team we're going to get each and every week between these two sides. Miami sometimes looks good, sometimes looks terrible. NOLA sometimes looks good, sometimes looks terrible. But NOLA coming away with this one by 1 score. They move up to 8-5, like we mentioned at the top of the show. They lock up their first playoff spot in franchise history. Miami now down to 4-9.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure Miami isn't going to make it. But it's the first time, I guess, some upside fantasy wise, the first time that we saw Matias Orlando playing at that center position. And he looked good. I thought he looked very good. And the Miami, I thought their Miami set piece looked good as well. So they'll have a nice little reset game coming up when we get into next week's matchups of going against Anthem.
Yep. And then a couple guys, I mean, we'll keep this short. When there's only 33 points scored in total between the two teams, not many fantasy points to be had. There was only one above 15 points, and that was Santiago Videla. Once again, fly half position, the week of fly halves. He had 65 meters gained with the 1 conversion kick and the 2 penalties. Thomas Inciarte. Matt, he continues to be your secret weapon as a guy that is starting at the center position. He shouldn't have scrum half eligibility moving forward here, but 12.5 fantasy points. It was nice while it lasted.
Yeah, it was nice. And I have a feeling that he's going to go off next week too.
JP Duplessis, 12.3. Good to see him kind of get into the scoring column there. This is his first double-digit fantasy point performance since round 7. Only his second on the season, which is just shocking to think because this was a guy that was picked within the top 6 picks. Matthias Orlando, 11.6, and Malcolm May, 11.4.
Yeah, no regrets dropping JP Duplessis, but hey, he had to kick Jordan Jackson Hope out of that center room just so we could start getting some ball carry. So, Jordan Jackson Hope playing 15, JP Duplessis reaping some of those benefits.
All right, now going on to the second last matchup of the weekend, the Dallas Jackals taking on the Chicago Hounds, and what was probably the most exciting matchup back and forth, maybe between that and Old Glory DC's match. But the Dallas Jackals coming through here. 6-7 now, winning 20 over the Hounds. The Hounds fall to 5-7-1. They're at risk of potentially dealing with some competition. They're at the bottom of that playoff spot there in the Eastern Conference. Dallas holding on to making it in the West. But fun match between two teams that are really in that middle tier of the league.
Yeah, I mean, look, Dallas is a different team when they have Oliver at 9. Like, it is completely different. And when they have him playing 9, he moves the ball quick. He does exactly what Dallas needs to do, and that's keep ball in hand, move the ball quick. He comes in, scores a cheeky little try as well. But Dallas, that's what they thrive on. And when they came out in that second half, we saw a completely different Dallas team. Chicago just couldn't keep up. They had a messy start to the second half, and from there it was just all downhill for them. I'd say one of the few things that was upside was like that Noah Brown, having him back in the lineup, seeing him score absolutely ridiculous tries, just boshing the entire Dallas team. That was nuts. And we'll talk about him going into the waiver wire as well.
All right. So some guys
I want to shout out Mason Flesh too. I think Mason Flesh, you know what? He is a nice guy to own because he keeps bouncing back between back row and second row. So he doesn't lose that eligibility. And man, it doesn't sound like much jumping from 4 to 6, but just that eligibility, it kind of moves him to the outside of the scrum, but still he's a nice guy to have on Chicago.
Provides a little bit more upside.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Absolutely. All right. Well, let's start off with Mason Flesh here. 18.1 fantasy points as our second row team of the week player.
And he's playing back row.
And he's playing back row, like to Vandy's point there. 97 meters gained for his highest of the season. His third try of the year with 8 tackles on top of that. Mason Flesh looked pretty solid there if you had him at your second row position, which is very helpful. And then the other team of the week player was the back row of Dallas, Sam Tuifua, with 17.2 fantasy points. I mean, Tuifua, he's kind of like this year's, obviously different positions, but he's like this year's Leroux Milan. Like if you extrapolate his points from where he began, so he didn't start until round 5, right? This is his points from round 5 on. 19.9, 12.3, 14.8, 20, 28.3, 10.3, 17.2. Like if he played a full season, like this guy would be, insane. I think, better than Semi Kunatani. Like Sam Tuifua, when he's on the field, is incredible. He went 3 straight. He has 4 games above triple digits. 2 of them are above 150 meters gained. He now has 4 tries in the last 3 games he started in, back-to-back weeks where he has tries. I mean, Sam Tuifua is just incredible for the Dallas Jackals.
Yeah. He actually definitely been good.
And then some other guys that were big performers. Not that many people had him in his lineup because it wasn't on their list, but it was a last-minute change. Thomas Kubeli not suiting up here for the Jackals. Connor Winchester taking the place there as a last-minute change. Winchester, 20 fantasy points in this one, 140 meters gained with 15 tackles on top of that. And then some other guys to go down the list.
I don't think was it Kubeli?
Yes.
It wasn't Kubeli that he replaced.
Yes.
The 9 from Miami?
Was it? No. Oh no. What's his name? Kubia, Thomas Kubia. I get those mixed up. Yeah. Kubeli.
Come
Kubia.
on.
Kubia. Thomas Kubia.
Yeah, tomato. Not the same guy.
Tomato. Exactly, Vandy. Tomato.
No, not the same guy.
Tomato.
Billy Meeks having a good one here. Good to see him. Performing here 17.2. He still doesn't have a try on the season, which is crazy. He did have a try assist though in this one. Jason Tidwell, 16 fantasy points. Maddie, you mentioned Noah Brown, 15.5 in his first appearance since round 10. And Bryce Campbell, 14 fantasy points for him.
Yeah, a lot of nice fantasy points there as we move on to the barn burner of the weekend, eh, Vandy?
So let's now talk about this last match to wrap the weekend.
No,
Vandy, do you want to talk?
Whenever we get stops like this, we all
highest
just
points
go
scored.
No point really talking about it. Let's just get to the fantasy points.
Okay. All right, sounds good. So 68 fantasy points, 68 fantasy points for Seattle Seawolves, 29 fantasy points for the Utah Warriors. They got smashed.
I'll be honest, boys. When it was 35-3 at like 29 minutes, I'm like, why am I wasting my time? And I literally,
I don't blame. I don't blame you.
By then,
I don't blame you.
Jade Styling, we were getting destroyed on the wing. Hodgson got absolutely
that's
up.
I was just gonna mention who was it that ran? Was it was it Tavit Lopetti? I think it was Tavit Lopetti, right?
Yeah, it was.
When that happened, I'm like, what? Joel Hodgson has no business wearing that 12 jersey. Has no business wearing that 12 jersey whatsoever. And if the scoreline,
never let him wear it again.
If the scoreline didn't dictate that, they just got to replay that clip over and over and over again because it was
absolutely blown up, man.
Yeah, it was just crazy. But not too much to talk about here. I mean, all you got to say is that Seattle absolutely pumped Utah. Utah obviously dealing with a whole bunch of injuries. Caleb McEnany wasn't in there. Joe Mano still seems to be absent. Matt Mason looked good. We'll get on the Seattle. I mean, it's all Seattle guys except for or Michael Manson. Not Michael Manson. He looked good.
Mac Mason
and
jeez.
And Polasike not in the lineup. So Utah's hurting right now, literally hurting right now. So it's tough. I think Utah would like to kind of scratch this season, throw those orange jerseys in the fire, and restart here in 2025. But let's talk about. Let's talk about here some players that performed, and we wrap up our team of the week honorees with the back three player of the week. I mean, Jade Styling. Like he's been kind of down the past 4 weeks. A lot of people had him on your bed. This is like the classic Vandy when a guy just goes through a stretch of really tough games, and then you're just looking at the 36.4 fantasy points that is sitting on your bench. I know Stephen Lowen, our community moderator, has him on his team in our main league, and he had him on the bench. Luckily, he still came away with a win. I would be kicking myself if I benched him and you lost your match. But if you had Jay Styling in your lineup, you were winning this week. 124 meters gained, 5 tackles, and let's add the 4 tries that he scored too, which was one of the fantasy performances of the year here for Jade Styling. Michael Manson, Vandy, you mentioned 21 and a half, 140 meters gained, a try for him. 21. I gotta say, Devon Rousseau looked very, very good this match. I think he's a guy I was gonna say he is very good. I mean, at this point, like you were wishing that you had Rousseau over Creel, right? Like I think in this point 100%. Here. Ina Foodie, 20.8, Mac Mason, 13.9, Joe Tafetti, good to see in his return, got 2 tries in this one. He's going to be another one of those marquee front rowers for 13 fantasy points for him. And then Tavit Lopetti, 12.1.
Yeah, a lot of fantasy points to go around for Seattle, that's for sure.
Yeah, if you had basically any Seattle guy in your lineup, you were quite happy. Even if it was a mid, it was still like double-digit fantasy points. All right, well that does it for our Week 15 breakdown. Let's go right into now our waiver wire watch list segment, which is probably going to be one of the most important waiver wires of the year. You're heading into playoffs. There's a combination of marquee guys that are entering the mix. And you got to figure out what you need heading into this week, and whether or not you have the cojones to start a guy that you're picking off waiver wire this week over a guy that's been in your lineup or is just not performing for you based on the name game. Now, that's kind of what's alluding to before we get into the names, Maddie. Playoff strategy for waiver wire. You're the champ. You're 2023 fantasy MLR champ. You went through the semifinals last year. You made it to the finals, and you took it from there. Where do you go from here when it comes to waiver wire? For me, there's 3 words: let them go. You have guys like LaRue Milan. You have guys like that have that name value. You're waiting for that boom game. Let them go. Right? You're not gonna have the balls to put him in your lineup anyways. And when that boom game comes out, it's going to be too late anyways, and you're going to have him on your bench. Go with the guy that you have more confidence in on the waiver wire. There are other guys that fall into this category, but LaRue Milan is the one guy that kind of comes into my mind because he's just a guy that you've been waiting on to kind of explode here, and it's just not coming.
If you haven't started him last week, if you're not going to start him this week, you can just drop him. I mean, if you're not going to start him, there's no point in keeping him. You're not going to keep him going into next season. It's not getting any better from here, unless it's like a crazy matchup Like, for example, if they're facing against Anthem, don't expect anything crazy. If you didn't have the confidence to start any of them, you can just drop them and let them go and pick up somebody who actually you might put into the lineup if the timing's right.
Yeah. And there's a bunch of other guys that fall on that list. Like, I mean, LaRue Milan's one of them. I'm just trying
Well,
to
I
look
mean, we
here.
just go through like JP Duplessis, like, Paula Balakana, if there's people are still
Right.
holding them. All of these guys, like all these guys are guys that can definitely be dropped as we're heading into the last 2 weeks of the season.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go ahead and talk about the guys that you might be picking up here for some of those guys here as you head into the fantasy MLR semifinals. Let's start off with the front row position, Maddie. For you have a guy that both of us have Miami guys here, and just kind of banking with the guys that are going to do well here. For me, I got Tau Kalamatangi. I butchered that so
Nice.
bad.
Maybe.
Kalamatangi. Kalamatangi. He has started in back-to-back weeks for the Miami Sharks. He goes up against the Anthem, who's allowing the most fantasy points to the front row position. The reason that there's some plus in here is that he's gone over 25 meters gained in both of those matches, gives him a good floor, and he's also a threat to get that 80 70-minute bonus point. He's played 60 in his first match, he played the 80 last week. It'll be interesting to see if Tau, I'm just gonna call him by his first name, is able to kind of be that fantasy front row streamer for you coming up this week.
Yeah, and I went with the hooker, Kirby Mayo, who's came off the bench. He started some weeks. He's kind of switching back and forth, Sean McNulty. But I think the Miami lineup looks good. And I think they're going to really dominate against this Anthem side that struggles against the set piece. So I can see him kind of starting to put up some big points.
All right, move on to the second row position. For me, I got a Seattle Seawolf, and I'm surprised this guy is kind of been going under the radars this season so far with the Seawolves when it comes to his performance, because he has low key been pretty solid for you at the second row position. Nothing fancy, but I mean, coming off of a 9.8 fantasy point performance against the Utah Warriors, Gene Drost. He has a floor of at least 3 or 4 fantasy points. He gets double-digit tackles every single week, and he plays the full 80, if not at least the 70. So again, just another solid guy to go with. If you just need to plug and play a guy that you are knowing is going to have a handful of fantasy points here. If you have one of those guys that was a big name and you need to go with the guy that you maybe have a little bit more confidence in.
Yeah, and I've got Tavita Nakali here for my pickup. Rob Harley with the suspension. Tavita Nakali puts up, I think, 8.3 fantasy points last week. He has a pretty big week. And with the Fernanda Schultz injury as well, you can see potentially can get more opportunity. So I think Nakali here is a nice little waiver pickup.
And then moving on to the back row position, I'm going with kind of matchup base / kind of the name value here. We saw Lucas Rumble return to the Chicago lineup in this past week, coming off the bench. Now, he put up 7.5 fantasy points coming off the bench in the 22 minutes played. Again, a large part of those points is what he does best, the breakdown steals. He had 2 of them his first 2 of the year. San Diego is giving up the most fantasy points to the back row position. If Lucas Rumble is back in the starting lineup and is up against San Diego, I will be very happy to put Lucas Rumble in my back row position, in my flex position as that guy. It's a high risk play, but again, if he can show any glimpses of what Rumble does, getting a guy that is going to get you those breakdown steals against a team that is in a favorable matchup with the San Diego Legion, Rumble should be a good play this week.
And San Diego sucks at the breakdown. Look, Tom Florence, he is in NOLA. He has promo videos that he's shooting at the baseball stadium that they play rugby on. The NOLA back row room, they're struggling. Jonah Mo's got injuries. OJ Noah's out. They need a guy like Tom Florence coming in. He's going to get the opportunity. If you got fab, you drop all your fab right here, now on Tom Florence. You drop everything. I'm going to drop all 0 of my dollars on him, and I'm going to hope to God that nobody else puts money on him because I'm putting everything that I can on Tom Florence. And that's exactly $0.
Yeah.
So if you had $10, you put all 10?
Mm-hmm.
I put all 10.
I agree with Matthew.
This is it. This is it. I got nothing left. There's no point for me to save him anymore. I'm putting all
Fab is nothing.
All 0. I've got nothing. Yeah, exactly.
You want to be
at this
again
point in the season, Fab is nothing.
Right. And ideally that's to your point, Vandy.
Exactly.
You want to maximize your fab that you use in the year. This is the guy. This is the guy.
This is a signing. This is a signing that you wait for. Like, this is the one that you've been waiting for this whole time to come at the perfect time for you to be in semifinals of your playoffs for your fantasy league. Like, drop the fab. You got 100, you drop 100. You got 150, you drop 150. 149 maybe if you want to leave $1 for next week. Like, you just drop it all down right here. Flop it on the table, you know?
All right. Let's move on now to the scrum half position. For me, again, going matchup base here. And it's on the actual opposite side of the Chicago Hounds San Diego Legion matchup there. It is going to be basically any San Diego scrum half because
it's gonna be Tupai's gonna be playing.
If he does. Well, it should be. But we've seen some weeks here where he played with reserve in round 5. You know, so who knows?
Long time ago, right?
In round 5,
who knows?
Long time ago, right?
You know what the hell is that when you got to go looking for it?
We know
you're holding younger.
This scrum half position
all
is.
Over again.
They didn't. No. If Connor Tupai's, it's
holding younger was the reason why the game was so close last week. So.
If I'll admit it here, I'm moving off my Holden Younger take. If Connor Tupai is not starting this week, I'm picking up any of the San Diego scrum halves for Holden Younger.
All right, cool. Let me predict that at the waivers.
Okay.
Yeah. I've got Shani Cuban for Carolina. I don't know why Sayosi Nai left early, but he came in, he got subbed on, and he got taken off. Not sure what it was. I have a feeling that it might be some injury, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. So I think Cuban is going to end up being the starter there. I have a feeling he's going to get the start over McManus and against a Miami team where they could still end up putting up some points. So I like Cuban here at the scrum half position.
And then fly half position, you and Maddie and I are on the same page here. Dorian Jones of the NOLA Gold.
He's back.
He's back. We haven't seen Ronnie Iona in quite some time. We've obviously seen Reese both at the fly half position. But I mean, at this point in the year, when you are dying for a fly half and a guy that has kicking duties, why not take a flyer on this, right? So,
and the crazy part is that Reese both those going to end up starting this upcoming week because we said told people to pick up Dorian.
Right. I know. Okay, and then now the center position. The center position, I don't know why this guy's in our waiver wire, but he's a guy that needs to be picked up. Tian Lutz is a fantastic player, not even as a waiver player, but a guy that you can plug and play in your lineup. I mean, he's gone 3 straight weeks where he scored higher than 11.6 fantasy points. He has 2 tries in the past 3 games, 4 tries on the season in the 7 matches that he's played. He's on the up and up. He doesn't seem to be affected whether or not Marcel Brocky is in the lineup or not in the lineup, because I know Brocky flips between the fullback and the center position. Ethan Grayson is not a threat to him. Tian Lutz has been a staple ever since round 13, and he's performed ever since. So Tian Lutz needs to be a guy that you pick up if he's available.
Yeah, agreed. I got Connor Winchester. He was the last minute addition in the last week. He proved that he should be in that starting lineup. And every time he's on the field, I mean, the guy's an absolute beast, and he's got some upside and where sometimes they ask him to kick from the tee. So, who knows?
And then now back 3 position for me, going another matchup base here. Chicago, surprisingly, has actually allowed some of the most points to the back 3 position. So obviously, you can cop out here if there's any possibly Miami Sharks guys that you want to pick up. Those might be good options. But Vifale is a guy that I think you can pick up 25.5 fantasy points on the year so far. He had a big time performance this past week. Obviously, 20 of those were scored of those 25.5 in this past week, but he has looked good in the past 2 matches that he's played. Round 9, he had 4.7, comes out in round 15, do this. So if he starts again against Chicago, I think he's a good play.
I think Marcos Young's about to go off here.
Yeah.
But I've got still for Carolina. I mean, he's coming back off suspension. Every time he plays, he's an absolute beast. He seems to make a big play every game. So I've got David Still here. I mean, you pick him up, hope that he's in the starting lineup. And if he's in there, then I would be starting him. So he looks good. I think another one guy that I also was kind of tottering here is Noah Brown. With him being out the last few weeks, he's probably another guy that you can look at for waivers. And he's probably on your waivers. And the way that he looked, I mean, dang, was he running over dudes? And they are okay to give him the ball and just let him run. So Noah Brown, definitely a guy who you can look at.
And then now defensive and set piece plays that you can have this week. I mean, in 18 leagues, you probably have more options. In our main Fantasy Ruckers league with 10, who's the team that's holding 2 defenses? That's what we gotta figure out. But either way,
I don't know. There's no buys left. Stop hoarding them.
Yeah. Anthem Rugby Carolina is the only one that is available in our league. Are there any? I guess the question is, because if that's the only one that's available, then you're going to. But where's the line? Is Anthem Rugby Carolina at the bottom of the list?
Yeah.
So if there's anyone available,
did you see their lineup? Their lineup last week, it was like they were telling San Diego what they were doing.
I'm just asking. So if there's any other available,
Old Glory DC is in your lineup. If Old Glory DC is in your available,
they're not available anymore, man.
I'm gonna preach this. I'm gonna preach this. If they're available, you pick them up.
They
were available for way too long.
Yeah, they were available for way too long. Yeah. So basically, the lack of knowledge here is just as good as the knowledge here. Anthem Rugby Carolina. If there's anyone that's available other than Anthem Rugby Carolina, pick them up and play them. All right. Let's get into now a Week 16 preview here. With another full slate of matches. Vandy.
Hey, we got 4 Fox games this week.
4 Fox games. It's crazy. 4
of them.
Good sign.
We got 4. I think we got a Friday, a Saturday, a Sunday, and a Monday.
We got a Monday match. Monday Night
I'm
Rugby.
Pretty sure we got a Monday match.
We do.
We got
Monday
Night Rugby. I don't know which games are the ones that are Fox. Do you got them, Ryan?
I sure here. Kill some time. Let me pull them up.
Kill some time.
I'll pull them up first.
How's the weather?
Vandy, you don't kill. See, that's why we don't ask you to kill.
How's the weather?
That's exactly why we don't ask you to kill.
So Dallas, Old Glory, Houston, Dallas, Old Glory on Friday is on FS2. Houston, Seattle on Saturday is FS1. New England, Utah. Oh, Vandy boys, Vandy, your boys are on FS1 against New England. The nation is going to be able to see Utah get
smacked on national television.
And then on FS2. On FS2 on Monday, we got San Diego taking on Chicago, which should be a pretty good match there too. But before we get into the individual matches, let's give a recap on kind of how it's gone. Vandy, you didn't catch up. You believed in your Utah boys, and they didn't come through for you. You're at 44, 32, and 2. Maddie, 50, 26, and 2. Ryan's running away with this thing. Killing it this week, 120
So basically, I am losing by Utah.
Hey, that's called loyalty.
To Matthew.
Vandy.
I mean, I'm
There's
ahead of you.
Wrong with that.
I'm ahead of you by 12 matches.
There's nothing wrong with loyalty, Vandy.
Yeah,
that's good. It's
good.
There's nothing wrong with that. Ryan can know a thing or two about that.
Well, we'll see. We'll see about this week and if anyone can make any ground here with about 3 weeks of play left in the Major League Rugby season. Again, we start off on Friday with the Dallas Jackals taking on Old Glory DC. This one's gonna be, I think, a good one here, and they both have implications in terms of both kind of those teams at the bottom cusp of their conferences, trying to get that seeding in, trying to lock in those playoff spots. Neither team, if I said correctly, has locked up a playoff spot there. So is there big time wins for them? Dallas 6-7, like I said. Old Glory DC 5-6-2. I'm quite happy playing all of my fantasy assets in this one.
Yeah, I could see it being pretty high scoring. That's for sure. Yeah, I can definitely see it being pretty high scoring. You're hoping that Dallas is kind of putting out their top whole lineup out there, and DC is doing the same. Um, oh, this is kind of a tough one here, but
Yeah.
I don't know. This one's tough. This
I'm
one's
going
real
Dallas.
tough.
Who's home?
I'm not
Dallas?
exactly sure who I want to go. Well, yeah, I
Dallas
know
is
you're
home.
going
I'm going
Dallas.
Dallas.
I'm going Dallas.
You jackaled then.
All right, Vandy's going Dallas.
All right. Well, Vandy, let's make this fun for us. So I'll go DC.
All right.
Ooh,
I mean,
spicy.
it's going to be the line is going to be so
one.
close with this one. It's going to be a close one. So
Oh,
we'll see how that goes. But Maddie, quick question before we move on here. Connor Winchester gets the start in this one. What marquee centers are you starting Winchester over in this match? Are there any big names that you're really high on Winchester, or is he just a guy if you need a streamer as a flex back, you put him in? But is there any kind of like obviously I'm trying to think. Like, would you
over LaRue Milan?
Would you start him over Billy Meeks?
No.
No. Okay.
I wouldn't start him. Maybe Tavit Lopetti, but like that's about as high as I'll go.
Okay. Okay.
Like again, streamer, but Tavit Lopetti is also he has the upside now that he's probably going to be starting for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
With Kurajani out. Yep. Okay. Next matchup there on Saturday, the Houston SaberCats taking on the Seattle Seawolves. This is going to be the matchup of the weekend. This one's going to be fun as heck, I think. Houston 12-1, Seattle 10-3. I believe for Houston just needs to win one more, especially this one, for them to lock up.
Because they're 2 wins ahead.
Right. So they would have to lose the rest of the year for Seattle to have a chance at locking up top spot in the West. So this is a big one. I think, what are you thinking here? High scoring, low scoring? Do you want, like, are you worried about any of those guys that you had, or you happy to put them in? And I'm not talking about your Mac Masons, your Davy Kutzers, your other kind of marquee guys in this one. Right. Are you playing Tufts guys? Are you playing Drew Wild? Are you playing Samu Smith if he's in the lineup? Are you playing Tony Pulu?
Yes.
Those are the guys that you're looking at.
Devon Rousseau.
I don't know. I think, you're obviously playing Devon Rousseau. I think this is going to be a low scoring, gruesome affair. I have a feeling. I just have this feeling it's going to be low scoring. I think last time they played, it was very high scoring. It was the opposite. Pretty sure, because that one on Houston, that's Seattle, right? Fairly certain. Is that New England?
It's New England. I'm almost positive it's New England.
All right, let me pull it up.
Anyways, I think
you might be right. You might be right.
I think this is going to be a little bit of a grind here, but all in all, I think I'm going to go. I think I'm going to go Seattle.
Okay. Vandy, what do you?
I like it. I like Seattle here. I have a feeling. I just have a feeling. I think Seattle is gonna pull to play for. I think Houston,
Houston lost New England last time they played.
Okay, so it was New England.
Houston won 42-40.
It was 42-40. Yeah, so that was a barn burner. I don't know. I mean, I'm saying low scoring. Who knows? I'm not sure. I'm gonna go Seattle. I think Seattle's got a chance to win here.
All right.
I'm going Houston.
Yeah, me too. Houston's at home. I think they have the advantage here.
And they're missing that.
Go Vandy. Let's make this thing interesting.
We already did. I would Houston, you would Seattle.
I know, but we're just gonna keep her going. You're going Utah here, right?
All right. Well, let's get to this next matchup. New England Free Jacks taking on Utah at home. The first match on Sunday, 3 p.m. Eastern time. New England 9-4, Utah 4-9.
Play them all. Utah is basically Anthem now, so just play all.
Basically, that's what I was gonna say.
Basically, Anthem.
Yeah. Lock me in.
I mean, they got Noah Bain starting in the backs. Like they got Joel Hodgson at 12. If you got a 12 on
are you worried
Bank's about to go off?
Are you worried?
A penniless age, if he goes in, he's going off.
And I wouldn't be too worried about New England not putting out a top lineup here. Like I think New England still needs to win games here. So like it's not like they're putting out
I think they gotta take this here. Are gonna eat, man.
They better not start younger. They better go Cam Nordley Elementi because their offense looks way better with him in.
If it's so sad, it's so satisfying though, winning a fantasy week with holding I think there's lineup though.
You act like he put like a lot of points.
No.
He got you over 121 and you scored 121.1 points.
Maddie, the fun part is that he doesn't score you points, but he's in your lineup. He's like a running joke on this show. Hold it down just because.
Ryan, I did it for 7 weeks, bro.
I know. That's what makes it funny. And I'm doing obviously better with him. I haven't lost a match since he's been in my lineup. So
and he didn't win with him.
I didn't win a single one with him in my lineup.
But New England, Maddie's going New England too. Vandy, what are you doing here, buddy?
At this point, I might as well die on this hill.
Let's go.
If I took Utah over Seattle, I can't much not.
Let's go.
There you go. All right, let's go on to this match.
Right there.
Anthem Rugby Carolina taking on the Miami Sharks at home. Anthem 0-13, Miami Sharks 4-9. We said on the shows before that we're not picking Carolina until Carolina has, but I'll say it. This is the one that they can win. They can win this one.
I don't know about that. I think we've said that a lot, and I don't know if we should trust that. I would definitely start all your Miami guys. I mean, Marcos Young, Matthias Fryer.
Is that your very?
Who else? Avery Oidemann's probably going to start. Matthias Orlando. If you have him, you definitely start him. Enciarte, you're starting him. Gubelli, I don't know about that. Videla for sure. If Echeverry's back, him too, maybe, but he might be hurt.
Now I'm figuring it out.
He's back. Bonasso, he's all back. Myhill's back.
Fitzy.
Probably going to start. Casares is still out.
Fitzy of Rugby Morning. I now understand why he dropped bank on Matthias Orlando. He's playing 3D chess with us because
well, come on, that's just like 2D chess. He dropped bank on a guy who's good. Like, whoa, way to go, Fitzy.
But on the second layer is that he's taking on Miami or taking on Carolina. You know?
Yeah, I've been sitting on Miami guys in my lineup for 3 weeks now, just because of this matchup right
We
here.
didn't mention that on the. Why are you guys keeping that a secret? You should have told me so that I can make sure.
Well, because that's why we're on and two. What do you want to do? Just let everyone be 1 and 2?
Yeah, we're supposed to share the knowledge.
1 and 2. There has to be a limit here. There's a line here at the top.
We're supposed to share the knowledge with the people, and that's knowledge that I would have appreciated, and the rest of the people.
What am I supposed to do? Hey, pick up the guys that I already got in my lineup. I don't know. But also other teams didn't, other leagues didn't get by, so it wasn't as applicable.
That's
you know
true.
what I mean? I've been holding these guys simply because of buys.
Before we get into the picks,
you guys go first.
Before we get into the picks, Kirby Myhill starting at the hooker position. What hookers are you starting, or what hookers are you starting Kirby Myhill over?
Like all of them except Quattrin, Telfetti, and Peter Asus.
Kirby Myhill or Fawcett?
Myhill.
Wow. All right. I just want to take a temperature test.
Upside.
That's true.
Upside.
True. All right. I think this is actually has the ingredients for Anthem to come away with a win here. I'm going to fall for it again. I'm going Carolina in this one. I think just Miami. I never know what I'm going to get.
I never know. The only one to go Carolina.
I never know what I'm going to get with Miami each and every week. I know that I'm going to get some sort of offense from Anthem Rugby Carolina. I'll go with Anthem this week. I'm playing all my Anthem guys too.
You go.
I'm going Miami.
Okay.
All right. I'm going Anthem.
All right.
Yeah, no, but don't play like Manzo, the hooker on Anthem. Their line out, their set piece is just not going to do well today in this game.
Yeah. Backwise though, I'm playing all my Anthem guys for sure. All right. Last matchup of Sunday, 6 p.m. Eastern time, June 16th. RFC Los Angeles 4-8-1 taking on the NOLA Gold. This one's going to be an interesting one. Los Angeles at home. It's not like NOLA won that convincingly against Miami necessarily this past week.
LA, they look good, man.
What lineup are we going to see from NOLA? Henry Spates, is he going to be in the lineup with Los Angeles? Tom Florence, this is going to be a couple, with LA. I think this is going to be
Florence is going to be in. Lawrence is going to be there. He's going to be in the lineup.
Lawrence is going to be in.
I'm telling you, he's at the baseball
you think
stadium.
Spates is going to be in the lineup?
Maybe. I don't know. You got
like
Cole. You got.
I mean, why sign him this late
Jack
into the
Shaw.
season? Why sign him this late in the season when you know you're not going to make playoffs if you're not going to use him?
Because the guy's bored and wants to play rugby in LA, and he's just coming out to play with the boys. That's why.
Fair enough.
There's a strong chance it could be that.
Yeah. Vandy, who are you going with in this one?
Damn, this is tough.
Yeah, you would.
I think I'm going LA.
I was just gonna say that. Yeah, give me LA.
Well,
They look so good against Seattle.
Yeah, all right.
Or
All
not
right,
Seattle.
Vandy. We'll keep making this
Houston.
interesting, buddy. I'm going NOLA.
Damn, you
there
give
you
me a
go.
chance.
You guys, man, Vandy, if you sweep this week,
This is what we do.
This is what we do. All
Dude,
right, the
last there's 0% chance I sweep this.
The last match, of the weekend on a Monday Night Rugby. First Monday night matchup that we've had this year. First Monday night matchup. Have we
Monday Night Raw?
Have we had a Monday night match ever? We'll have to go to James Dealey.
I don't know, but we got first time ever. We got 4 Fox matches. That's for sure.
Yeah. All right. Chicago Hounds taking on the San Diego Legion. 5-7-1 Chicago, Legion 9-4. This one has a lot on the line too. San Diego fighting in that Western Conference. Chicago trying to grasp onto the playoff spots there. Chicago's at home. San Diego, like Maddie said, didn't necessarily look that great against Carolina in the week before, despite putting up 30 points. What are we thinking here?
I think some things to watch is probably a couple things. One is Kean Meaden back in the lineup. 2, what's happening at temp is San Diego? Is it Giddo? McClutchy got hurt. What happens there? We'll have to see. And also like what that back three room looks like. So a lot of questions there. I think those are the things to watch. I think this is going to be a tight game. I think it's going to be a really sloppy game and an ugly game. And unfortunately, I think this ugly game is going to be put on FS2.
All right. Well, I am going Chicago in this one.
Vandy, you're next, buddy.
You're going Chicago. I'm going San Diego.
All right. I'm going Chicago. Let's go.
Keep it going.
Keep it going. All right. Well, Maddie, I think for the first time this season, Maddie
wait,
and Vandy
who's at home? It's not
Chicago.
San Diego.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No,
all
I gotta
right.
stay.
If Vandy switches, I switch.
No, I gotta keep
well,
it.
Every single match, all 6 of them, Maddie and Vandy have both picked opposite sides. I think the most interesting thing to see is, like, I want to know who the favorite is going to be between Anthem Rugby Carolina and Miami Sharks.
Well, I'll tell you right now, if it's Anthem, I'm putting. Let me
hammer down.
Let me find
Miami.
the deed to my house real quick, and then
all right. Well, we'll get into that on the Triple D segment. But first, we got to get into our brand new segment here. Second week doing this. It is time for OvalYe with Vandy, presented by OvalYe. And this is the continuation of OvalYe challenging the Fantasy Ruckers to trying out their platform and giving a go to their both free-to-play versions of Major League Rugby and also their other tournaments. We had a live stream where we picked our players that we had. I'm quite happy with some of the guys I got. Vandy and Maddie were happy with some of the guys they got. But I guess 1 week into this, 2 weeks into this, where are your stance on OvalYe and kind of the players that you have and players that you're eyeing and looking forward to?
Well, it sucks with my rare card. My one rare card, the guy hasn't played in like ever since I started playing. So that sucks.
That's fantasy.
But yeah, I mean, I had Nate Oxberger, the cheeky little halfback, playing in my limited. I got Quattrin, so I reaped the rewards from that bad boy. That's for sure. Mitchie Wilson, I could have used without that yellow card, but hey, it is what it is. He did well. So yeah, I my limited guys, I thought I had a fairly good lineup. I think some guys I might be looking for, like if I can find a cheap little Corey Daniel card, just trying to find some deals. Cards seem to be very expensive.
Yes.
When you want the cards
yes,
that you
they are.
Yeah. I mean, when you're
like
trying
500 and I'm looking at that, like I'm not getting rewards here. 500 is a lot.
Yeah. And I mean, when you're trying to hunt down those cards that you want, like for me, example, like I'm looking at my lineup and I bought AJ Alatimu. Kind of the similar position of your Jonah Mo, whereas like I haven't seen AJ Alatimu on the field since I picked up that card. And now I'm like crying because I'm like, man, I wish I had a Davey Kutzer card because that card would be flying. And I bet you the value of that card is now skyrocketing through the roof right now. But yeah, I mean, I think to your point, Maddie, it's about finding some of those value guys, some of the guys that, don't have that big name value, but do a lot of things around the field. Guys like Corey Daniel, guys like those under the radar guys that kind of do work. And those are my opinion, because it's different here with the Fantasy Ruckers. Like everything is from a tangible, quantified point base. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
With OvalYe, they quantify it in kind of qualitative ways, and there are things that you can get in that score in those 5 categories. Obviously, they count the try points and the kicking points, but like that impact that you have, those are also baked in. So you can get some of those other guys that kind of are low key like that. You can probably find some value there. How do we do the first week? I mean, we had the first week going. Funny enough, just like our weekly
Vandy
challenge,
crushed it.
Vandy, you're killing it, man. You finished in what, 26th? You got some rewards
26.
there. You're starting to build, and I think you got some OvalYe tokens on top of that. So you just got to keep on saving, man, and you'll be able to buy some of those guys.
That's right. It's just like real life. I'm gonna work my bag off, and then maybe I can buy a shiny TV.
And then now I guess moving forward here is just now from a strategy standpoint. Like, how are we approaching this strategically? How does it differ from the Fantasy Ruckers? I think one thing is injuries are a herder, because you're obviously investing money into these cards. And for example, for you, Maddie, when you have a Jonah Mo card that you don't have anymore, like there's no like IR that you spent the money, you have them on your lineup. You know what I mean? So like
you could sell
maybe you can sell them, but like, I mean, now you're selling him at a low point at this point, right? Like who's going to buy that card right now?
Welcome to the stock market, buddy.
There you go.
Yeah. I think for me that you got to balance when you're doing it, because like you're balancing out not only what they're doing this season, but like, for example, I dropped money on Sam Gala, knowing that, hey, I'm going to have this guy for the next whatever years, and I'm going to keep playing in this OvalYe, and I'm going to have him in my lineup. So it's like trying to balance both things: longevity, who's going to be in the league the longest, and like, guys that are doing well now and still trying to do well. That's why the free to play is probably a bit more the Fantasy Rucker aspect of it. And I'm just hammering that free to play, just sitting there with Kunatani and Vanderbank just always locked into my lineup.
Yeah.
Why Tokia?
No
I rock
kidding.
those guys.
Yeah.
Well, I'm lucky enough to have those in my limited. The night we did the auction, I got some pretty good cards there. But I'm with Matt. I think my game plan is just availability. It's trying to figure out, which is impossible, who's going to stay in the MLR. So you're just kind of going for younger guys, target them that way, and then coming in 26, I got myself a nice shiny new card for a player who's not even in the MLR. So
and it's interesting.
I'm going to look at him for a little bit, and he's currently on the market. So if anyone wants to go,
you can
help a brother out.
Andy, you start playing, you build those cards, you start finishing in the top 25 more often, and then from just playing in the MLR regular season, now you start playing in the top 14 Premiership limited tournaments, and you start making more and more and more. You never know. There's more leagues that you can participate in. But I will end on this: is that I feel like OvalYe is a balance between kind of what you're saying, Maddie. It's like almost like a hybrid between Dynasty, for those of you who are familiar with that format, where you're kind of building like a literal team that you're buying players with, versus also in conjunction with kind of this weekly challenge. It's almost like a Dynasty weekly challenge type thing. So it is looking at the bigger picture. I do have a feeling, and I'll end on this last tip, is that I think handcuffs are going to be huge in this. Like if I'm going to buy Alatumu, like it's really nice to have Kutzer too, because I know that I can, like, one of them will be in the lineup in there. Or like, for example, for you, Maddie, like you have a Jonah Mo, like it'd be nice to have, I guess unless you want Noah, you don't want to really have
I'm gonna go find a Tom Florence right now.
Find a Tom Florence card. There you go. So it's interesting. But yeah, been a fun experience there.
About that.
Yeah.
The only thing I'd say about handicap is
handcuff is you got to also be wary of how many bye weeks and everything there are. So if you're just stacking, your replacements for every single team, you only have so much allotted money, and it goes up really quick. So just make sure. I guess that's the thing, Vandy, is that what's nice in this fantasy format is that there are no roster limit spots. The roster limit is how much money you have. So you go out there and you can buy every single player and every single handcuff out there if you're financial backing allows you
I'm
to do that.
looking for a sugar daddy. So
that's the most case for most of us. But yeah, I mean, it all depends on just how much you're willing to. And again, Vandy, it's like a stock market, right? You also want to consider value and everything. So it's been interesting. 2 weeks into this thing, we'll find out how we did this upcoming week, and obviously have our lineups in here for the upcoming week 16, which should be interesting as we continue to navigate this thing that is OvalYe here on OvalYe with Vandy, presented by OvalYe. All right, let's wrap up the show here, Vandy, with our classic Triple D Devin's Degenerate Dambles segment. We'll keep this one short here. All I'll say on my end, went with the parlay of Dallas, Houston. No, not Dallas. Sorry, Houston, Seattle, New England, and NOLA. And I ended up winning about $10 from that with the $5 I put on there. I had a little of a risk play there with Chicago beating Dallas, but Dallas proved me wrong. So Vandy, how did you do this week?
Well, I followed you on that one. I took Chicago over Dallas. So I did my parlay as usual. I took San Diego. I took NOLA. I took Chicago. I didn't take Utah because when it comes to money, I'm not stupid. And I also took Houston. So I would have had some decent coinage on that. And then to boot, I just put $5. I really like the odds for Miami on that one. So I put $5 in Miami. So I lost 15 this week.
Ooh. All right. Well, hey, you're still.
I don't get many weeks where I'm in the negative, so I'll take it.
You're still in the plus though. You've won like more than like $20 this year. So you're still beating me. I'm still in like the negative, like I think like $60 right now. So you're still beating me by a landslide here. So you might not get the pick straight, but from the gambling side of things, you're definitely tearing it up. This coming week, full slate of matches, Vandy. We mentioned about it's going to be interesting to see who's favored in that in the Miami Anthem Rugby Carolina match. I mean, yeah. I mean, if Anthem is favored in that one, the value is so there, right? Because they are home. It's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah.
So what are you going?
Gotta hammer down on that boy.
What am I going? Well, okay. I like some parlays here. I always like my parlays. That's where you lose all your money. But you look at that big return number. So the ones I like, I'm going to take the free ones. I'm going to go free Jacks. I'm going to go Miami. And I'm going to take a stab at the Houston Seawolves. I really like that game. I want to dog in that fight. It'll be enjoyable to watch it. So definitely want to put money on them. And then I'm going to go probably $5 on OGDC to beat Dallas.
Okay. Is that so? I'm going to assume that Dallas will be favored in that one. Is Old Glory
they will be at home.
Is that your upset of the week?
No, my upset of the week is actually I think Anthem could steal one from Miami here. And I don't want to bet on it yet. I want to see the odds where they have Anthem. But I'm telling you right now, if you get like a plus 400 there, you'd be, $5 is going to make you 20.
Yeah.
So
I have a real big feeling there. I have a really big feeling there that because Anthem is home, that they might be favored in this one.
They gotta win one, man. They gotta win one.
I know. We'll see.
Way.
But you're right though. I think Anthem, there's a lot of value there. Okay, then what is your lock of the week, Vandy?
Lock of the week is, hate to say it, but it's the Free Jacks versus Utah. We are depleted.
Oh, you traitor.
No, we are depleted. Like I said, when it comes to my fandom ship, I will pick Utah. But when it comes to real money, I mean, if you're looking for a pretty clean lock, if you want to just sprinkle some extra dollars on a parlay or something, take the Free Jacks. With that Utah lineup, we're not winning. We're not beating the Free Jacks.
It definitely won't. I don't think the value will be there on the solo pick.
No, you're gonna want to sprinkle it on a parlay.
Yeah. So all right. Well, hey, we'll see, Van, if you can get back in the positives there this coming week. We'll see if I can continue staying in the positives to start making back that money. But this one will be an interesting
and one other thing.
Mm-hmm.
Scope that Legion game out. For some reason, Chicago's home, they might have some odds. You might get a plus 100 or something on that. Parlay that with an easy win like the Free Jacks and take a stab at a Seawolves Houston winner, and you can make a pretty decent little 3-leg parlay. There was some money.
It's true, and just inserting that one upset in your parlay, like it changes.
It boosts it, man. It boosts it big
by so much. So we'll see if that what shakes down this upcoming week in week 16. Got a lot of fun matchups in this one, I feel like. And again, Vandy and Maddie on opposite sides of every single match this week should make for an interesting segment next week. Again, people remember we got the Monday night matchup. So there will be a little bit of a delayed release of our semifinals. But hey, good luck to everyone out there in your fantasy playoff semifinals and your first ever ones in hopes of getting your first ever fantasy MLR championship. And we will see you next week on another episode of the Fantasy Ruckers Show. Maddie, Vandy, anything for the people as we close it up?
Just even frail hippies die sometimes. So
just enjoy the playoffs. I wish I could enjoy them.
There you go.
One year, man. 1 decade.
I think what would be sweet, Maddie, if we have an all-ye Fantasy Ruckers OG League final. That's my wish for Christmas.
Stop with this all-ye. You know what?
It goes with everything.
Yeah, whatever. I ain't saying it.
All right. For Maddie, for Vandy, for myself, we'll see you next week on episode 113 of the Fantasy Ruckers Show.
Bye, Steven.
You've been listening to the Fantasy Ruckers Show, bringing fantasy rugby to the masses, covering everything rugby from the MLR and beyond. We hope you enjoyed the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review, and be sure to tell all your friends. We'll be back soon, but in the meantime, connect with us on social media at the Fantasy Ruckers. Till next time, this is the Fantasy Ruckers Show, signing off.